Hi, I'm Paul Peterson.
And I'm Danny Banks. Paul, what do we mean by human capital?
Well, capital is a word that's changed in meaning over the years. When Cortez conquered the Aztecs, the Spanish thought capital meant gold and silver. And later on, people thought that capital was the same thing as coal and oil, all that stuff in the ground. And later on, they thought it was things like automobiles and appliances, mechanical things, the kinds of things that get manufactured. But today we know it is human capital.
Presidents have said again and again that the United States must guard its human capital. In fact, Ronald Reagan appointed a commission that said we need to stem a rising tide of mediocrity in our schools. Was the great communicator the only president to talk about this pressing issue?
No, that's something that presidents have talked about again and again. George H.W. Bush vowed to bring U.S. educational achievement to the top of the world by the year 2000. That was back in 1989. Clinton, when he was president, said all Americans can reach international competitive standards. George W. Bush wanted to leave no child left behind. And President Obama said we need to out-innovate, out-educate, and outbuild the rest of the world in his very first State of the Union address.
And despite those commitments from our presidents, students in the United States are still trailing behind students from other countries. Are we going to have to pay a price for that?
Some people feel we are already paying a price, Danny. According to our business leaders, employers are already finding it difficult to find a qualified workforce. This graph ignores the overall trend in salaries in the United States, but only looks at how salaries of high school graduates compare to those of people with other levels of education. The salaries of high school graduates are set at 1.0 in this graph so that everything can be compared to them. That's that red line that runs across the graph there. It's a straight line. And you can see that relative to high school graduates, if you have an advanced degree, you're making a lot more now than you were back in the early 1980s. And the same is true if you have a bachelor's degree. So having more education is really worth a lot more today than it ever was before. And if you don't have a high school diploma, you're going to trail behind more than ever before. So the differences, depending on your educational degree, are much greater today than they were in the past. Clearly, education is important, and it is more important now than it ever has been before.
Does this information transfer well to talking about countries around the world?
What's true for individuals is true for countries. In this graph, we see displayed the skill level of students in different countries and the country's growth rate. Notice the steep increase in the line that summarizes all the information in the graph. When that line is steep, it means that there's a very close connection between the two things that are being put together here. And the two things being put together here is the increasing level of performance of students at the age of 15 and the growth of the economy in those same countries. So the evidence is very strong from this graph that the level of skill acquired in school is a powerful factor driving economic growth.
So how does school performance affect prosperity?
Well, we took this information and tried to figure out just exactly what would happen to the growth of the United States over the course of the 21st century if it could bring the performance of its students up to the level in other countries. Now, you're going to have growth in the future if the future is like the past, whether or not our schools improve. And that's what the red line shows. That's the basic expectation we have based on the past as to how much the economy is going to grow in the course of the 21st century. But then if we could get the performance of the United States up to the level of the German performance, then we would grow at the rate the blue line shows. And the Canadian performance is even higher, and of course the Singapore performance, the line goes off the charts.
Are these benefits immediate?
No, as you can see in this graph, it's not immediate. It takes a long time for students to finish school, to take advantage of their education, to go into the workforce. So all these lines don't move much differently for the first 20, 30 years. It's only after 2040 that we begin to see a difference opening up. So that's the problem that we have in education. We have to have a good educational system for the long-term well-being of the country, but we won't suffer adverse consequences from stagnation for a long time. So it can lull people to sleep. People can think that we can enjoy a prosperity even though we have a stagnant educational system.
What would happen if the United States could reach the same education levels as Canada?
Well, we project the total gains for the United States of an improvement of our educational system such that it performed at the same level as the Canadian system. And we got some astounding numbers. We discovered that the income of every worker would increase by 20% over the course of the 21st century. And that would amount to $77 trillion. Now, that's not going to happen immediately, but over time, this is an astounding sum of money.
$77 trillion. How is this true?
Well, it does sound incredible, but one needs to reflect on the extent to which our income has increased over the past 60 years. In 1950, the average per capita income in the United States was only $13,000 in today's money, while per capita income in 2007 was $44,000, triple the level in the not so distant past. So when you have steady growth and when you can shift up that steady growth to an even higher level, the long-term benefits to the society are enormous.
Outside of economic growth, are there other benefits?
The economic benefits are the easiest to quantify, and so we tend to concentrate on them, but the other benefits are probably even greater. An educated citizenry is essential to democracy, and good schools further that goal. All of us benefit if our neighbors are well educated. We have a better sense of community, more social capital, and education fosters that as well. And the ability to make thoughtful decisions about the lives we wish to live are greatly enhanced if we receive a quality education. So yes, there's political, social, and personal benefits that come from having good schools. So in the next lecture, we will discuss the critiques and of the argument that we have advanced thus far, and look at some of the challenges that the American school faces, giving a brief overview of the lectures to come.